Hello and welcome to the Empower Yourself Summit. My name is Pamela McAlexander and I will be your host. I have a special guest with me today, and before I tell you what he does, I want to paint a little picture for you. He's done extensive research on cognitive psychology, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it's understanding how people learn. He has counseled families and individuals and sees clients for a variety of conditions, from weight loss, anxiety, smoking cessation, test taking, phobias, nail biting, road rage, anger management, and the list just goes on and on. He is the author of over 22 books on hypnotherapy and has been practicing hypnotherapy since the 1980s. He is a board-certified clinical hypnotherapist, and today I'd like to welcome Dr. Steve G. Jones.
Well, thank you, Pamela. Good to be here.
Thank you. So before we get started, I would actually like to ask you a question, as I'm sure so many of our viewers are experiencing right now. And I know there are a lot of misunderstandings around hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Would you please explain to us what it is and how it works?
Sure. Well, hypnosis is just a relaxed state of mind in which you're more open, more suggestible, as we say, to the suggestions coming from the hypnotherapist. And this is not a strange state to be in. This is not unusual. This happens every day. When we go into what's called alpha, when we're just slowed down a little bit, like when we're reading a book or even driving or watching TV, or when we just wake up or just going to sleep, or when we're showering or vacuuming, we go down to what's called alpha. Normally we're in beta, full awakening consciousness, but we go down to alpha, just a little bit more relaxed. Our brain slows down a little bit more and we become more open to suggestion. We become more relaxed, more open. So the only difference between that happening normally and that happening in a hypnotherapist's office or when listening to a hypnotherapist recording would be two things. Number one, the hypnotherapist or the recording is causing you to go there to a state you normally go to. They're causing you to go there with words. And number two, they're putting positive suggestions into your mind as opposed to whatever else might be around you at the time.
Okay, so for example, when I do guided meditations or I listen to my meditation CDs and it puts me into that relaxed state of mind, this is very similar to that. It's not making me do anything I don't want to do. It's
Right.
simply utilizing that brainwave pattern to help us make changes.
Exactly. That alpha state is very helpful, and that is the same state that you reach with meditation or hypnosis or when you daydream. It's a natural state that you can reach through guidance or that you would reach on your own.
Wonderful. Well, that's very fascinating. Thank you for clearing that up because I know that is a question a lot of people have.
Sure.
So where I'd like to start is if you could tell us a story from your own life where you actually struggled with self-doubt or fear or a combination of the two, how you overcame it, the steps that you took, and where it actually then puts you where you are in your life right now, which from what I can see and from what I can hear and gauge from the work that you do, you love what you do.
I do. I get to help people every day, and it helps me because I'm human also. So I have my own pitfalls that I have to deal with, and it reminds me of this positive mindset, and it really empowers me as well. So for me, the journey with hypnosis all started when I was in high school. I was in Riverside Military Academy. My parents sent me there because I was a bad kid, which means that they didn't know how to control me, which means I was just a typical teenager. But some kids get threatened with military school or boarding school, and you say, oh, yeah, whatever. Well, my parents followed through. They sent me there. So there I was, stuck in Riverside Military Academy in the early 80s in high school, and I felt bored and stuck. So I started reading a book on hypnosis that I got. It was a small paperback book called The Complete Guide to Hypnosis by Leslie Lecron, who is a PhD psychologist who unfortunately is no longer with us. It was not really complete, but it was enough to get a kid started on his way to hypnosis. So I started hypnotizing my roommates. And then I eventually learned I could use my powers for good. So the smart kids came to me wanting to study more efficiently. The athletes came to me wanting to exercise more efficiently.
Wow.
All these years later, it's the same thing I was doing then, except now the smart kids are NASA and the athletes are the Dodgers. But during that time, I learned how to control my subconscious mind. I learned that if I wanted to get anywhere in life, I had to increase my confidence. I was a very shy, reserved kid. and I realized that I needed to work on myself. So that's what I started doing, and through learning that, and then through following up with academic study, getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, my master's in education, my doctorate in education, I was able to learn how to not only deal with the psychological aspects of people, but through my learning education at the master's and doctorate level, I was able to learn how to share that technology with the world.
Now, did school come hard for you then before you found this niche?
High school did. Yeah, I almost failed out of high school. In fact, I think I technically did fail out of ninth grade because I was talking to Susie, who sat next to me the whole year. I wasn't paying attention to algebra class. So, in algebra, you walk in at the end of the year, and if you've gotten 2 A's, an A in the first half and an A in the second half, you don't have to take the final. I walked into my final in ninth grade, and the teacher said, you don't have to take the final. And I hadn't paid attention, so I thought, I must have somehow gotten 2 A's, but I had gotten 2 F's.
Wow.
And so I had to go sit in the library during the final. So it was that kind of underachievement and, acting out that got me put in military school, which also would have been a dead end for me if I hadn't discovered hypnosis and turned it all around.
Wonderful. So would you have labeled yourself as a behavioral issue child back then?
I don't think so. I think my mom passed away when I was 6. My dad had just remarried when I was 10, and there was a lot of tension in the household, between me and my stepmom. She's the new kid on the block, and I'm really a kid, and we're just kind of, battling back and forth. So it was typical teenage stuff in a what we might call a blended family. Even though she didn't have any kids of her own, she still stepped into a very difficult position with a young kid who became a teenager. So I don't think I was any more of a behavioral problem than any other kid would have been in that situation, but I do understand that they wanted to keep the peace and they didn't want anyone killing anyone, so they just set me off. That's the easiest way to go.
So then upon going to military school, and I assume this is someplace where you then lived.
Yep.
Like a boarding school. Okay. So then being at military school and studying there, when you got involved in the hypnotherapist, was it just for fun? Was it something that just piqued your interest and you were curious to see how far you could go with it?
Yeah, I was studying all kinds of metaphysical things also. I was just looking for a way. I was bored in school, really, and I was looking for something to read that wasn't geometry or history or anything like that. I eventually had a good psychology class they all had rank, all the teachers, so his name was Major Crow. That was his name, and he really got me interested at Riverside Military Academy in psychology. And that piqued my interest, so then I went to the bookstore. We were allowed to go to town every now and then in Gainesville, Georgia. I found a book I looked in the psychology self-help section, I found a book on hypnosis. I thought, that sounds interesting. So I started looking through that, and that's really what started me on my path.
Which is really very interesting because, we tell our children all the time, find what it is that you're passionate about and run with it. And so in a case in your situation, you were sort of forced into a military school environment. I'm sure it was not a place you were jumping up and down saying, yes, please send me away.
Exactly.
And you totally turned the tables because in being put in a situation of maybe, I don't know, I always say, why is it when we're put in crisis mode or we're put in that situation of just extremes, do we suddenly start making changes? And it's easier to make changes when we're put in that mode. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a normal reaction, I think. And Richard Bandler really tapped into this a lot with his early teachings and what he developed. If you can get someone in that heightened state where they really care about it, and they're not just kind of hanging out in an academic way, if they really care and they have to make a change, that's the state they need to be in order to make a change. So it's sort of a desperation mode that our brains go into, where we become very primal and looking for a way out, a way to fix this so it doesn't happen again or so it stops. And that's what I was able to tap into.
Now, is it possible to tap into that not being in desperation mode?
It is. Yeah, and a lot of, again, I'll refer to Richard Bandler. A lot of his earlier work in NLP was designed to get someone in state, in peak state. So you can create that artificially, we might say, by having someone remember the memories of when they were in that state, or somehow tapping into it. Maybe they saw a movie where someone was in that state. So you can create those states. I'd argue they're not as good as when it happens naturally, but then again, it happens naturally, you're usually not in a resourceful state anyway where you're attempting to make a change. You're just trying to get out of trouble or danger.
But if somebody were really truly wanting to make changes in their life, of course, at this point, maybe it's very preliminary stages. They just know there's some dissatisfaction in their life, or there's, something missing, a piece missing. How would hypnotherapy help them?
Well, one of the ways it can help is by helping them discover their passion, what they want to do. A lot of times people are dissatisfied with their lives. A friend of mine, Joe Rubino, Dr. Joe Rubino, he's a dentist, but he's really not a dentist anymore because he's got to be at least 55 now. When he was in his late 30s, he discovered he didn't want to be a dentist. He wanted to help people. So he went into self-help. So sometimes the profession you're in is just because somebody told you it would be a good idea, or maybe, people go into things to get power or to feel good about themselves, but it's really not what they want to do. So one of the ways hypnosis does help is by aligning you with what you really want, not what your parents said, not what you think would make money, but what you really want to do and how you can contribute to the world.
Wow. So as far as when you're looking at someone, because you don't just see clients personally, you also are in a situation where you have recordings that people can listen to. Why is nighttime a better time to listen to those versus daytime?
Well, people can listen to them in daytime. They just wouldn't listen to them while they're doing anything. You have to be lying down and have the place very quiet. And they're also designed to put you to sleep at the end, so you sleep through the night. So you'd have to set an alarm for the end. But nighttime is the best because you're already lying down. It's already quiet time. So if you have someone next to you who doesn't want to listen to the stop smoking recording or whatever you're listening to, you just use earbuds. Earbuds are great because you can roll over on them. I have some right here. So I listen to some of my daytime recordings throughout the day. So you just put in earbuds and you could sleep easily with these. You won't even feel them when you lie down. So it's just an easier way to do it. You're already lying down at night. If you fall asleep, it's okay. Research shows that your eyes close, of course, but your ears don't. They stay open. So the research indicates that because they stay open, they monitor your environment. If you hear something, you'll wake up. They're monitoring your environment all the time, even while you sleep. So they can also take in information while you sleep. So I think it's just a great, very efficient way to use hypnosis at nighttime.
Now, I've done some of your hypnosis CDs, and they have been great. And I always worry, it's like, okay, I really want to stay awake because I really want to hear what it's telling me. Am I losing information because I'm sleeping through half of it?
No, it's actually better because your critical factor has checked out at that point. Even if you fall asleep, you're never really asleep. Your hearing is always monitoring your environment. So there's part of you that never really sleeps, and that's the part we're tapping into, the part that's still able to record information. If you hear a phone ringing while you're in dreamland, it'll become part of your dream.
Right.
So that information is being taken in. So we're using that to your advantage during that time. You don't need to stay awake and listen to it. If you ever do want to hear what's on it, just to check it out and make sure. You can always fast forward past the hypnotic part, the part that's putting you into hypnosis, because the next part is just pure programming, and you can just listen to that during the daytime. Of course, just for safety, don't listen to it while you're doing anything. Make sure you're stabilized in on a couch or something while you're listening to it, and you can hear the suggestions on there.
Yeah, I have just found it to be very fascinating, and you have one of those voices that is just very relaxing, and for people that like that peace and calm, the beach sound, the ocean, I just found it to be very relaxing to fall asleep, and I have found that I sleep better. Why is that?
Well, I think you sleep better because you're going into a proper sleep. The program is designed, all my hypnosis recordings are designed to relax you down to at least alpha. Remember, beta, full awakening consciousness, alpha right below that. But a lot of people go even deeper than that into theta and delta. So it's designed to pull you down into that state of relaxation. So it's sort of like If you want to go on a journey, it's the push that the ship is going to get initially on the journey, with some sort of propeller or powerful engine. It's that push into the journey, in this case, into relaxation.
And what is it about our brainwaves and our patterns that, like for example, my favorite one, because I'm a sugarholic, big time. You can't open a pantry or a cupboard in my house and not see something that's candy or sugar related. And I'll tell you, I did your CD on eliminating sugar cravings, and it was like seriously opening my pantry door and just finding a bunch of gross, disgusting things in there. There was like no want or wish for any of it. And I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. Why?
Excellent. It's just when you are in that relaxed state, you become more programmable. Your brain becomes more open to suggestion. You become sort of like a child. A child will accept information. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's not. We don't have the ability to discriminate when we're children. We just take it in as truth. So you become like that, open like a child, and that's why you're able to accept that. And by the way, I've used so many of my recordings over the years that I now have a fairly boring life. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't use drugs, I don't gamble. You have to be careful. You may become a little too good. Become boring.
No, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, good.
Now, so for example, and clearly, and correct me if I'm wrong, clearly it's the idea that I want to eat healthier and I want to get rid of the sugar because I know it's bad for me. That helps when I'm doing the hypnosis at nighttime for me to have that reaction. So if I was somebody who, like, I smoked cigarettes and I don't want to quit, but everybody around me wants me to quit, and they tell me, well, go get hypnotized and you'll stop smoking. Why wouldn't that have as high of a success rate as wanting to?
Well, it always helps if you're on board with the program, because the program, whether it's a recording or someone working with you, they're going to work with you in that session, whether it's recorded or live. And then after that, you're going to be in your normal life and you're going to be with your normal friends. And so if you really don't have a desire to quit, you'll probably still continue hanging around your friends who smoke. They take a smoker's break at work, and you'll probably join them. Whereas if you do want to quit, you'll start making changes in your life that really matter, like avoiding those people, not eliminating your friends, but just avoiding them during the smoker's break, or their reaction to stress may be smoking, and you may start to see through that and see, aha, there's part of the challenge. I need a different reaction to stress. I need to get a punching bag or a dartboard or go for a run or something like that.
But all of that goes hand in hand with making these baby step changes in our lives in order to be able to have the life that we want, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to make the changes in your everyday life. If you expect it to be a magic wand, then, that's sort of dreaming. You have to be on board and accept the fact that you have responsibility in your waking life every day to start moving toward this goal also.
Okay. Let me see. Tell me about some of these books that you've written.
Well, I've written, I believe it's 25 books at this point.
Oh, wow.
And, a lot of them are, they're all about hypnosis in one way or another. I wrote a book on weight loss, and I wrote a book on getting things that you want. I wrote You Can Attract It with Frank Mangano, who's a consumer health advocate and a good friend of mine. And You Can Attract It is about using the law of attraction to get what you want. I bring in the hypnosis part of it. How can you program yourself to have these positive thoughts? But aside from that and the weight loss book, all the other books I've written are about how to use hypnosis, basic hypnosis, advanced hypnosis, hypnotherapeutic scripts, hypnotherapeutic inductions and deepenings. These are all parts of a hypnosis session. So there's things designed for, mostly for professional hypnotherapists who are working with clients to make their job a lot easier.
I have a just off the wall question. Explain to me what binary beats are and how they come into play with hypnosis.
Okay, you probably mean binaural beats.
Sorry.
That's okay. Now, binary technology is something that I created with the help of my assistant. We had a contest, and I wanted to see who could come up with the next breakthrough, and she did. So that's how we created binary beats, and I'll explain that just in case just to be complete, binary beats are a technology that I use where the suggestion starts in one ear and then 10 seconds later it starts in the other ear, so it's offset by 10 seconds. And sort of like row, row, row your boat, and the next next line comes in row, row, row your boat 10 seconds later. In this case, it's designed to confuse the conscious mind so you're not picking it apart. But binaural tones or binaural beats actually don't exist, interestingly enough. They're a phantom tone that's created in the center of your mind. That's where you'll hear it. And it's the difference mathematically between the frequency in one ear versus the frequency in the other ear. So if you have one frequency in one ear and one in the other, and you subtract the two, you get the difference. That's the frequency you'll hear in the center. So it's a phantom tone that doesn't really exist. It was discovered a long time ago, over 100 years ago, but it's been found to be useful in getting a person into more of that state where we want them, which is the programmable state, so then we can give them positive suggestions. So that's why a lot of my recordings use binaural tones, also known as binaural beats.
Okay, that's very interesting. So similar to like if you were listening to a drumming meditation CD. It sort of is along the same lines as far as those beats getting you to a point of sleep state or meditation state.
Did you say a droning meditation?
Drum, like
drumming.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of those?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
It's drums.
I just wondered if it was something similar.
I've heard drums before, and I've heard them used in group settings, but for me, drums wouldn't be relaxing, but that's fine. That's just a personal preference. So there are drumming meditation recordings. You listen to drums and you relax?
Well, it's integrated in with guided meditation. So I didn't know if it was, again, something with the brain where that specific pattern of beats or that if that related somehow.
It's possible. I mean, when we're talking about cycles per second, though, so that would be a pretty fast drummer to be able to play that quickly. This is usually something that's machine generated because it's just happening so fast. We're talking about beats per second. You know, so a drummer would have a really hard time. You know.
Got it. So that's not the same kind of beats.
No, but it may be the same type idea that they're working on. Which is a rhythmic idea designed to, you know, rhythmically relax you somehow.
Okay, let me see. I know there was a couple other questions I wanted to ask you. Oh, what if somebody has hearing issues? They're deaf. Can they be hypnotized?
Not through auditory means, because they wouldn't be able to hear, but there are probably other ways to do it. They could, if they could keep their eyes open the whole time, they could look at someone. Most people who are deaf and have been deaf a while can read lips. It would have to be through some sort of visual means, I would think. There's kinesthetic also through touch, but that just wouldn't be directed enough unless they've been trained to, you know, understand that a certain touch means letter A and, you know, sort of read through touch, that type of thing. You'd have to find some way to get the information in through either touch or sight. Those would be my two primary ways of approaching that. Wouldn't be very easy, but I think that's a way for someone to develop some technology that would be very helpful.
Okay. I'm just thinking in terms of, you know, people who are interested in this that, you know, hey, you know, do I have the opportunity to be hypnotized if I have hearing issues? But I can certainly understand where hearing is one of, you know, because it's a calming, you know, we know when somebody's yelling at us, we know when somebody's talking very softly to us, and whatever direction it's coming at us in, it puts us in a state of mind.
Absolutely. So that with that, someone could potentially take that a step further, maybe they already have, and create something for the hearing impaired. I think that would be a wonderful idea.
Okay. As far as when you see clients, do you prefer seeing them face to face, or you know, do you have the ability to hypnotize over Skype?
I don't do it over Skype because I find the video to be a little distracting to them.
Okay.
So what I do is I usually do it over the phone. So I have a lot of phone clients who call in, and we'll have a session once a week, and I'll do the hypnosis over the phone. Of course, at that point, they need to, again, the earbuds are great. They can just pop that into their iPhone or what have you and listen to me like that, so they can lie down. I've had some people who rig up some kind of headset and use that and just kind of lean back with that. There are all kinds of ways to do that, but hypnosis is all about words. So whether I'm in person with them or on Skype with them or on the phone with them, as long as they can hear what I'm saying, then we're all set.
Now, how does it work when you're dealing with your clients? Like when you're dealing with them face to face, why is it so important, or I guess even with over the phone, why is it so important that they not be interrupted, that they be in a place where there's going to be no disturbances? Is this because you don't want to interrupt those brainwave patterns?
Exactly. It's just like taking a nap. When you take a nap. Now, some people can sleep in a crowded subway, but most people need peace and quiet.
Right. And a dark room.
With what, I'm sorry?
And a dark room.
In a dark room, yeah. Me, I close the curtains. I clip them closed with one of those big, paper clip things, the huge ones that have those jaws. And then after I've listened to my hypnosis session, if I get up later in the night, I come back and I put in earplugs. So I like it perfectly quiet. So there, some people are extreme like me, and some people are, the other end. Most people are somewhere in the middle. But I don't want the person disturbed. That's the main thing. I don't want them to be, woken up out of it, because the stages of sleep are identical to the stages of hypnosis. You go from beta, full awakening consciousness, to alpha, to theta, to delta. Those are also the stages of sleep. So when you're going into hypnosis, you're going into sleep states. And I don't want them to wake up out of it early. I want them to enjoy the benefit of it actually in hypnosis.
Now, are there any proven health benefits to doing hypnosis?
There are a lot, and when we get into research, we usually avoid the word prove in academic research, but it's been correlated with some health benefits, relaxation, and of course relaxation carries a number of health benefits with it, because when you relax, you eliminate stress. When you eliminate stress, you eliminate one of the #1 killers in the world, which is stress. So, and stress can come out all kinds of ways, heart attack, or neurological problems, or all kinds of different things. So when you learn how to relax, you can actually extend your life by dealing with or heading off any of those challenges that you may have. So there's a tremendous amount of research correlating use of hypnosis to what I would say would be longevity, but in the short, immediate test results, it shows correlation to lower incidence of heart attack, lower incidence of panic attacks, all sorts of things like that.
And this is because your brain is going into that kind of relaxed shutdown mode.
Right, and the trick there is that you've got to do it consistently. You've got to train yourself to do that, even consciously. You've got to train yourself to do that in your waking life. When something happens, you've got to learn how to calm yourself down and be okay with it, realize it's not a big deal. And so if people learn that technology that they bring into their waking life, that's when they get all these health benefits.
Now, when you mention conscious mind versus subconscious mind, can you kind of briefly explain the difference between the two, and what part of that mind does hypnosis work on?
Well, sure. Hypnosis works on the subconscious mind. So if we think about the mind as an iceberg, we have an iceberg. The majority of it is below the surface, because if the water, if we looked at the water, we'd see that it only allows the very tip to go above the surface. The rest of it is below the surface. So maybe 80% or so would be beneath the surface. And same with the mind. You have the conscious mind above. That's the part that you think with, you reason with, you think you're making rational decisions based on what you want right now, but really you're programmed by the subconscious mind, which is a collection of all the information you've got in the past. Where you should live, what you should wear, what you should do, how much money you should make, what kind of car you should drive. It's all in there, and it's all in your subconscious mind from your programming. So that becomes your reality. It's not right or wrong. It's just what you think about the world, and it's what you've put together for survival. And so every now and then there's a conflict between what the conscious mind wants. Maybe the conscious mind wants to be a millionaire, for example, and what the subconscious mind wants. Maybe the subconscious mind wants to play it real safe with a nice job in, cubicle land that's going to pay benefits. So we have the conflict. On the one hand, wanting to be a millionaire, on the other hand, wanting to play it safe. Well, playing it safe doesn't make a millionaire. You've got to get out. You've got to start your own business. You've got to, do your own thing. Either that or you've got to become the CEO of a big business. So there needs to be some rewiring. Let go of that need for stability. Realize it's going to be okay anyway. Break free of that, and then you can start accessing these higher possibilities.
Wow, that was very impressive. I liked that response because I think that's kind of a first step for people when they're in this process of, okay, here's how I've been programmed to think, to believe, to deal with my life, and knowing that there's that opportunity for change out there, but understanding that it's going to require some reprogramming of those beliefs in order for that to happen.
Absolutely.
So when do we use our subconscious mind then?
Almost always. And
that's
the good and bad news. You're using your subconscious mind almost always. It's directing you. Even if you think, I'm going to go to the store and buy something special today, you'll buy something special based on what your programming is. You go to buy a car, you think, I'm going to buy a unique car. Well, your unique decision will be based on your program that's already in there. So the fact is that we're always being told what to do by our subconscious mind. So the trick is to reprogram the subconscious mind so it starts feeding up positive information or information that will actually be useful to us in our goal seeking that we're currently working on.
Huh, okay. Well, before we finish up here, I just kind of want to ask you if you could tell our participants one thing that they could actually take away from the summit to help them begin their journey, what would it be?
Sure. Well, I always like to quote the musical group America, and they were talking about the Wizard of Oz when they said Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And the takeaway from that is that you already have everything that you need. You already have the power, the wisdom, the knowledge, the stick-to-itiveness, the determination. You already have all of that within you, but sometimes you need to be reminded of that. And so that's where hypnosis comes into play. It's just a kick in the rear reminder of how great, amazing, beautiful, and awesomely amazing that you are.
Wow, thank you so much. At the bottom of this email is a link to Dr. Steve G. Jones's website and his free gift, which is an actual MP3 of Program Your Inner Millionaire. So that's a nice segue into that when we just talked about that. Again, I would love to thank you so much for joining us today and for all this valuable information that you have contributed to our summit. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Pamela, it's been my pleasure, and thank you.
Thank you. Give me 1 second.